All right, welcome to our panel. Thank you all for coming. My name is Jason, Metal Jesus Rocks, and
of course, I am Radical Reggie.
That's right. Thank you for coming. And we're going to do a panel basically on how to collect in the year 2024. Some of our tips and tricks that we've learned over the years and the decades. But before we start though, we are very curious, who here brought their 3DS for Street Pass? I'm picking you up. I'm feeling it right now.
Hopefully mine does. It's dying, as you can see. It's blinking.
Yeah. We were very excited to do this. We're like, oh yeah. So,
but before we get started,
that's right.
Here we go.
It's like, what's happening now? What's happening? Yeah, that's so funny. I know, it's funny because when we do videos where we don't do it, people are like,
they get mad.
Subscribe, Yeah, it's pretty funny. So basically, we're gonna kind of just talk about some of the things that we do, and when it comes to collecting video games in this crazy year, and so what I did is I actually reached out on social media and also asked a bunch of people in the community as well as what they thought they should, what they would recommend. And it's really funny because the overwhelming response was, don't collect. That was the #1 response, which was a little disappointing, but I understand, right? In addition to video games, I also collect vinyl records, and 10, 20 years ago, you could buy a vinyl record of an amazing band for 50 cents. That's just, and people were giving them away. And now vinyl records is 11% of the music industry. Like people are buying more vinyl records than CDs right now, which is wild, which is driving up the price in that market. Right. So it's been interesting to kind of see the parallels with video games.
Right.
So we have a bunch of things that we're going to kind of just recommend. Do you want to just take the first one here?
Yeah, so knowing your budget, over the years, I kind of knew what I wanted to come with. I kind of took my time, because I know how long I wanted to be at an event, like it's going to be 3 days. So I said, okay, I got to have the money for 3 days. And usually the first day I kind of take it easy. I don't want to spend too much. I look around, kind of get a good feel. And then the second day, that's when you kind of start picking things up just, a bit. And then the last day, of course, when people don't want to take stuff home, you get those deals and stuff like that. So knowing your budget, very important, how to spend. Don't spend it all in one day, and especially if you're going to be there for the whole weekend, So, yeah, I would just say that.
Yeah, for sure. I would say to add to this that, some people try to speculate the market or try to buy as an investment video games, and that is certainly not me or Reggie in any way. If anything, as someone who is perhaps a little bit older, I would say maybe invest in your 401k first.
Yeah.
Okay? I wish I would have told my 20-year-old self that, So that would have been very good advice. But yeah, just knowing your budget, you know what I mean? You can get out of control pretty quick, especially if you are finding something and you're in the moment. I'm the same way. You're out there on the floor or you see something in a retro gaming store and you get all excited and then you're eating ramen for 2 weeks. That's no fun, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So another thing is, I would say don't collect for flex, meaning, don't collect stuff you don't care about. You just want to impress somebody else. I've seen a lot of people do that. And they end up draining themselves, kind of just killing the hobby for themselves. I collect what I love. Jason does too. Yeah. And though we have big collections, all that stuff we collect is stuff that we want to play and love. So, that's how we got a lot of a big collection. But yeah, just make sure you don't collect for flex. That's what I call it.
Yeah, and in addition to that, collect what you are passionate about and what you're nostalgic for. Especially in the beginning, that's the most fun is whenever when I was able to get a bunch of hero games on Atari 2600 complete in box, because I didn't have that as a kid, right? I had just the loose cart. And it's funny because every time I found one, I was ecstatic, or getting, some of those games that I was really nostalgic for as a kid is really fun and start there. And then you can kind of have a lot of fun branching out. So for instance, I like telling the story is that I didn't care about the GameCube at all when it came out because I had a PlayStation 2, I had an Xbox, and I thought I was good. I didn't need the GameCube, right? And then on Craigslist, I saw an ad, this is a while ago, where a guy had a GameCube collection with the controllers and a stack of video games for like 20 or 30 bucks. And I was like, sure, I'll take it. Brought it home. I was amazed how much fun I had with that. The controller was different enough. The games, like, you know, and were some of them were exclusive. I was amazed at how quickly the games loaded and how good that they looked. And so there's a lot of fun you can have, you know.
Yeah, and the GameCube was like, that was the only way to play Resident Evil Remake. It was exclusive at that time.
Yep, so, that's true.
Important, yeah. Probably one of the most important things is, you know, when people are going right, you go left when it comes to collecting.
Yes.
So what we mean by that is that if certain people are collecting, like, let's just say something popular like Super Nintendo, like everybody's collecting for that, you know it's going to be tough, it's going to be hard, but you look for something else that nobody's going for that you like. Like, for instance, for me, when everybody's looking for that stuff, I was looking for Game Boy Advance stuff, and it was easy to find. It was on the cheap, and I'm glad I did it that way, because if you're trying to collect at the same time as other people, it's just very hard. It could be expensive, and it's very disappointing. So that's a good tip. Like, even right now, like PS3 stuff is still cheap. PS4 stuff, GameStop wants to get it out of their stores and replace it with PS5 stuff. You collect a lot of that stuff and on the cheap, and sometimes they have that buy two get one free deal, stuff like that.
Actually, I remember going into a GameStop when they were getting rid of the GameCube games, and they were buy two get two free.
Oh man!
And I drove around to pretty much every single GameStop in the Seattle area, and I didn't clean them out, but I looked for games I didn't own that I was really interested in, because why not? You know what I mean? They were cheap to begin with, and then they would give you 2 free games. It was amazing.
Yep.
So to his point, it's like, you know, when 360 games right now are like less than $10, $5 sometimes, you know, even out here on the floor, it's kind of amazing that, and those games are on the disc. I know, shock, right? You know, they may not even need a patch, and they still look great. And that can be really fun to do, but also, like you said, you know, when everyone is going to, you know, going left, go right.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I mostly look for PSP games. Nobody cares about PSP, you know, or not nobody, but you know what I mean? It's like a lot of people.
Have you found any to show?
Yeah, so I found 2, which I was very excited for.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not many, but also, too, I'm not competing with everybody either. And
Right.
that's a nice thing. You know, one of them was $10 and the other one's $12. Perfect. Yeah, so going left when everyone's going right is definitely a good thing. Also, another thing I kind of want to mention, and Reggie is very good about this, is trading.
Yes.
So, you know, we're talking about money here. Maybe you don't have a lot, but maybe you've got stuff to trade. He is the master at this.
Yeah, you know, it's good to know your seller, you know, if they're a passionate seller, like they like video games and, you know, whatever like that, or if they just like selling, you know. If you bring something to trade, you know, something expensive, you know, it kind of helps out, you know, soften the blow pretty much, you know. I usually try to trade them something that they could probably sell fast. They like that type of stuff, so that's kind of stuff that's easy and everything like that. But always, you know, have a backpack, maybe there's some games you might not want with you, you know, and, you know, say, are you firm on the price of this or whatever like that? Can we make a deal? You know, politely, you know, and everything like that. Don't say like, oh, I only pay this much for it, and it'll make them mad and they don't want to deal with you. But that's a good way to do that, because I remember a long time ago, I think it was like at 2000, I want to say 15, I was selling at a booth, and this kid came up to me, and he's looking at some games, and he's like, I swear he's like 8 years old, and he had a backpack. He said, hey, I like this game right here, and I said, oh, this is how much it is. He said, do you take trade? And I was like, yeah, sure, and he brought out like all these crazy games. I was like, wow, this kid knows what he's doing. So yeah, I got the idea from that, and ever since then, that's what I do. So just remember that. You know.
Yeah, so to expand on that further, so for instance, if you guys probably know Kelsey, who owns Pink Gorilla, right? 3 stores in Seattle, but their booth here is very small, and they have very little to sell. The reason for that is because they want trades. So Kelsey went around today and actually bought entire collections of people. So she was telling me she got 10 copies of Final Fantasy X on PlayStation 2 because she needs them for her stores. And so a lot of people, especially at expos, they're actually here for that. They want to fill out their Dreamcast collection, or or Xbox 360 or whatever that they're a little bit low on. And maybe you've got parts in your collection that you're not playing anymore. Maybe you're willing to part with and get some credit, or make upgrade, or get some other stuff you're interested in.
Yeah.
What else do we got here?
Oh man. Not that many of the most expensive games are terrible.
Yeah, this is a
Yes.
good one. Somebody mentioned this, and this is a good reminder, is that sometimes the most expensive game for a system is absolutely garbage. And it's important to know that because you would think that would not be the case.
Well, I'll give you an example. So have you guys heard of Rule of Rose? Yeah, right? Rule of Rose, a great looking game. But the problem with that game is, it has a good story to it too, but the problem with it is the gameplay. The detection, the hit detection is horrible. Most people won't even finish that game or even probably get past the first few areas in it, but it's the most expensive game because it's sold poorly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to play that game. Yeah.
Well, another example, I just learned this weekend. A booth here had a 3DS game for $5,000. And I was like, wow, what game is on the 3DS is worth $5,000? It's a Barbie game. And the reason why it's $5,000 is because it was only for sale for 3 weeks and then it got pulled off. And so, so they all probably went back to the manufacturer and destroyed them, and a couple people bought them. And if you're going for a complete 3DS collection, you got to have that Barbie game.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you. And I was like, that's more common than you think. On a lot of systems, sometimes it's the late release Madden games or NBA games that come out, when a console's kind of dead, will be the game that will cost you the most to get. And so it's just important to know that, that might be kind of fun for bragging rights, I guess, but
a little bit of flex.
Yeah, but sometimes those games are terrible.
Yeah. So the next thing is,
I wrote them
sorry.
notes, so he's probably trying to translate. I put on here kind of nobody can own everything. I put this on here because I think some people get obsessed with trying to have everything.
Right.
Kind of getting back to you about the flex, but I put this on here because it was very humbling for me when I thought a while ago, this is years ago, I thought, I might go for a complete Commodore 64 collection because I had a Commodore 64 as a kid. Seems reasonable. Yeah, there's 100,000 of them. If you look across Europe, North America, and all of the games that were homemade, there's 100,000 games. I was like, well, that's not going to happen. But it was also very freeing to know that. I was like, you know what? Yeah, that's not something that that anyone will probably be able to do. But it's bigger than that. It's like if you look at all the consoles sometimes, like the PlayStation 2 had, 3,000-4,000 games on it, something like that?
Crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, and out of the percentage of those games, probably 30% or 40% are worth playing, you know what I mean? So it's pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. But if you can accomplish getting everything for a system, I mean, that's kind of a cool, you have a full collection of a certain system, that's kind of cool, but the stress level of doing that is pretty intense, and it might turn you off from gaming.
Yeah.
But next thing is the best time to get deals. Best time to get deals is usually the last day of the convention when a lot of the vendors don't want to take all that stuff home and they're ready.
Yes.
Like one of them already did a 50% off.
I heard about this. Yeah.
So that's a good time to probably pick up some stuff on the cheap, because just let you guys know that me and Jason, like when we collected on the cheap. A lot of stuff was dirt. They were giving it away. So that's how we built our collections and everything like that. So starting with cheap stuff. Not saying the games are cheap, like bad or whatever like that, but buying cheap and starting a collection. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah, pretty much like for instance the Xbox 360, which is cheap now, and now is the time when I'm interested in owning those games, right? Especially when sometimes I wonder if they're going to be available. Like a great example is an arcade racing game I absolutely love called Blur. Okay, so Blur is kind of like Mario Kart meets Need for Speed. It's such a good game. And it came out on the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, and PC. Well, guess what? It's delisted from the PC. And it's really it's hard to get. You have to basically go download it somewhere. And so the only two places you can play that game right now, then again, are the 360 and the PlayStation 3. And thankfully, it's not a very expensive game, but it is something those are the type of things I like to collect for.
Yeah.
Get them while they're cheap.
Yep.
Get them while they're locked to a system and, still able to play. That's kind of what I look for.
Yeah. So another thing too, when you want a game that's too expensive or you just can't get it at the time, emulation is a good way to experience things. So for me, I was broke back in like the mid 2000s, and I remember like, man, I wanted to play certain games, so I had a Game Boy Advance emulator on my computer, and I just remember playing Gunstar Superheroes, like, yes, dude, I'm playing this game, I don't have to worry about getting it right now. And that was amazing for me. And I didn't even know at the time that emulation makes games play better, and frame rate and everything. So that was an amazing experience for me. So I played a lot of my games like that before I was able to like afford a lot of them at the time. So just want to kind of bring that out. As emulation is a good way to try games out, if you can't afford them or just play them.
Yeah, I wanted to add this in there because I think emulation is important. We use emulation. I use it all the time. Primarily, for many reasons. Sometimes it's just easier to have a flash cart plugged into an analog pocket to capture some of that footage for a video that we're doing or whatever. Also, too, again, if you're going to drop money on a game, you should probably check it out first if you actually really want to play it. We do that all the time. I've got tons of flash carts, tons of them for almost every system, or optical drive emulators for the GameCube, things like that for the Saturn is really nice, getting that sort of stuff. Another thing, too, I was really surprised to hear this today on the floor. I was asking a bunch of the vendors what was selling. And several of them said the Evercade, which I was really surprised to hear, actually. Wow. Yeah, but if you think about it, you have, emulation, downloading ROMs free off the internet, whatever. But then Evercade gives you a little bit more for that. They give you a printed manual. You own that game. It's a physical copy, even though it's it's SD storage.
Right.
But I thought that was actually pretty cool. And they're $25.
And they're a compilation of games. They get exclusives.
They're fully licensed.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
It's a really nice system.
Yeah.
And I love the verses because, you can put the 2 slots in the game slots and kind of play it like that. So. Yeah,
so we kind of wanted to mention that, and we do in a lot of our buying guides as well when we're talking about, what games to pick up for us. We've done this recently just to remind people, say, hey, there's a lot of options out there. So don't beat yourself up if you can't afford, the super expensive game for a particular system, because we use that as well.
Yep,
for sure.
Exactly. And most importantly, if you're just joining this hobby, have fun. It's going to be great. Look for tips. Of course, you can watch our videos and everything for like stuff coming out or just hitting gems. But it's gonna be, you're gonna have a great time. A lot of great people. When I started this hobby, I've met so many great friends over the years because of it. So you're gonna have fun. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's important. Is that you can get, especially online, there can be a lot of negativity around this sort of stuff, and for us, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's funny because we were talking about how coming down to Portland, we've been coming down for years now, and we're still excited.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny because I was asking him if he slept. He's like, no.
Yeah, I'm running on fumes, so yeah, I'm hanging in there.
But we love it, and that's the thing is you always find something interesting. Plus, it's the social aspect of it. It's the community. It's meeting people who are passionate like you. And I don't know about you guys, but outside of this, it's like you will. You may not run into people who are passionate about video games and all that sort of stuff, but when you come here, everybody is.
Yeah.
It's your tribe, right? You can have fun, and so we definitely do.
Exactly. So now we want to kind of open it up, for questions.
Yeah.
We would love to talk to you guys and answer any questions you guys have for us.
I think we have a microphone, or
Okay. Man, that's somebody.
I think he might. Will you run around with that, or?
Oh, you got.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, sir. Or right over here.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. You mentioned Rule of Rose, and I wanted to mention that are there any games that you got when you were starting out or when you were younger that now you look at the price of them and you're just like, how? Because I got Rule of Rose for $20 from a Game Crazy when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
And I got Haunting Ground, the same one. The only one I had to buy afterward was Kuon, and I am a world record speedrunner in Kuon and also speedrun Rule of Rose and Haunting Ground.
Wow.
So you just insulted her favorite game. So.
Look, okay, I'll say this: Rule of Rose is fun if you get the gun. Once you get that, you're good.
It's funny. I mean, you could say that about a lot of games, right? Is that to be honest, people will email me and be like, how much do you think this game is worth? And unless I'm actually looking for something, I don't know. I don't follow that. I don't work in a store, right? Kelsey would be the one who would obviously know the most. However, I would say though that I was lucky and I got Gotcha Force on the GameCube at a really sketchy retro gaming store. And do you remember? Maybe I won't say the name. They went out of business.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, if you live in the Seattle area, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But thankfully they had a copy in there, and I think I paid $35 for it. And the reason why I bought it is because at the time, again, I was going around, I was really interested in GameCube. And that's an exclusive to that. And so I was like, well, it's got good reviews. I want a copy of it, and got it for $35. Now it's 500 something, 400. It's expensive because it's exclusive to that. So that's one, it keeps going up where I'm like, glad I got it early.
Yeah, I usually find out at at events like this sometimes where prices are going. So I'll see something I own. I'm like, wow, that's going for that much money.
Yeah.
That's insane. So I saw quite a few that I own. Luckily, I'm just looking for comments from my collection right now. Stuff that's simple. But yeah, usually at these events, or unless somebody posts on social media something blew up in price, that's how I'll find out about certain stuff going up.
But I do wonder though, because we've been collecting for long enough, where I wonder if in 5 or 10 years we're going to be sitting here and we're going to be looking back at 360 and PS3 games, going, "Wow, you could have picked that up for $5 back," and that happens.
Well, with them trying to really stop physical media.
Yes.
That's the big thing right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are not talking about it, but it's happening. Remember the announcement of the PS5 when they showed it next to the digital system?
Yeah.
That's that point. That's where I knew oh man, they're trying to push out physical, put it away pretty much. But I think that in the future though, we probably look back at this stuff and it'll be up in price because a lot of people are keeping their stuff.
Yeah,
so it's not much out there.
Yeah, Kelsey was telling me that they were having a hard time finding Dreamcast games because people who have Dreamcast collections like me or you, I'm not going to sell them because no way, you know what I mean? Because it'd be too hard to replace for sure, and we like them, you know. So good question.
Yep.
So I was wondering, do either of you have a gaming white whale that you're looking for? Currently, I'm on the hunt for Dust: A Tale of the Wired West. I don't know if you've ever heard of that game.
Sounds familiar, huh?
Yeah, it's an old computer game by the same people who made Titanic.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah.
Interesting.
FMV, but yeah.
I found the game I was looking for at this event, thankfully. It's not an expensive game, but it was a game that was kind of impressive at the time. I'm not saying it's a good game, but it's Batman and Robin for PlayStation. And the reason I picked it up because it's the first open world Batman game. So I was like, dude, let me try this out and see how it is. So I got that today actually, which was nice. So, but nothing I could really say it's anything really super I'm looking for right now. I'm just enjoying what I have and just going through all those gaming memories. So yeah.
For me, I'm not a completionist. My friend John Hancock he has 22 complete gaming collections, and so I know what that looks like. And it's impressive and it's cool that people do that. Right. The reason why I mention it though is that the one that I am going to go for is PSP, and primarily again because most people aren't doing that, and also because I love the PSP. I got it day one, and I think it's a great handheld. So I do have about 200 PSP games to go. I have 447, and there's about 660 or 40 of so anyways. But thankfully, I have all the expensive ones.
Yeah.
It's a Tiger Woods 2006. It's the Madden 08s. It's it's
Stuff
those.
like that.
And what's really interesting about those sports games, by the way, is that on the PSP they came with mini games that didn't come out on any other system. So they're actually kind of fun, and they're actually kind of unique. And so there's a lot of those kind of games I'm looking for.
You used to take yours en route to work, right?
I use it every single day, riding the bus to work. It was awesome. And then occasionally I would miss my stop.
Right on.
So, I got bitten by the Famicom bug at Pink Gorilla Games, or Pink Godzilla Games back in the day. And what really gets me is the Famicom people kept with the Americans, like we drop a system when the new one came out, but so there's so many like of the older Famicom games that were still in circulation. So like I got my Mighty Final Fight for like under $20 and DuckTales 2. And so what do you think about people, and it's interesting because like Japanese gamers are now complaining about Americans buying up all the retro gaming stock and buying up all the Game Boys. And so what do you think about people who like, try and import the Japanese stuff?
Well, you might want to take a trip to Japan because it is the land of video games. I mean, so I've been there twice now, and I've gone twice to Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto. And so, video game culture in Japan is legit. It's really fun. And there are certain parts. So when I first went, you go to Akihabara and you go to Super Potato. There was a lot of stuff there, and it was expensive but not crazy. Last year when I went to Akihabara and Super Potato, it was like, oh boy, it was picked over and very expensive. The one thing I will say is that, the exchange rate between the dollar and the yen is fantastic for travelers. Once you're there, it's 40% off almost on everything for you, from your hotel to the food to the games to everything. It's really cool. I can understand if they're not crazy about a bunch of, foreigners coming over and emptying their stores. What I would say is that, I didn't do that. I'm just looking for kind of interesting and fun stuff. What I ended up doing was taking the train between those cities and hopping off in small towns. Small towns still having 40,000 people, but they've got a bunch of gaming stores there that aren't picked over, and tourists don't stop in. And the prices are excellent. And so I would say, if there's specific things you're looking for, that's what you should do, is get outside of the 3 major cities, and you'll find probably what you're looking for, because they have so much gaming culture there.
So you're not paying you get outside the Akihabara, Tokyo Town?
I mean, Akihabara is I'm not going to say the worst, but it is the hub, the electronic gaming hub of Tokyo. And so, even getting outside of there, you're gonna find things that are less picked over, less busy, as a tourist for sure. And then if you get into Kyoto and also Osaka, it's just those are different. Those are massive cities themselves, but they're not anywhere near as overpopulated as Tokyo, Akihabara. So, if that helps you a little bit there.
Next question.
So I don't know if this has ever been your experience, but I'm sure a lot of people in here have had the experience of when you're a kid, you're done with your old games, you finished them, you bring them into GameStop, an old Game Crazy or somewhere to trade them in for a different game, maybe a newer game. So I don't know if you ever did that much, but are there any games that you traded away for something else, something newer, that now you go back and you're like, oh, I wish I'd never trade that away because the price is like sky high?
Yeah, when I was younger, I did that a lot. I was a teenager, I wanted the newer game or whatever, so, I didn't ask my parents to give me the games because I knew they like, I had to have like I had to have A's for them to buy me games, and I was like a B student, so I would just like trade in what I had and get something new, and I did that for a while. But when I got my job, I started keeping my stuff, and I kept it over the years, and even now I've gotten to like where I have a lot, of course, and this is the first time I actually sold at an event, so I don't do it anymore, but I have done it in the past, I'd say. So it's not something I do like really anymore, but selling now is, it's pretty cool. I just, because there has been, but there's been so many, and I've already got them back, so it'd be hard to narrow it down.
Yeah,
I'll say.
I know for myself in the late '90s, maybe early 2000s, something like that, because when you're moving around a lot, big box PC games suddenly become a burden just because they're so big, and all of a sudden you look at the stuff you're moving and half of them are video games. And so I did sell a lot of big box PC games at the time for probably nothing.
Oh.
I will say though that over the years I have got them all back and more.
Yeah.
And not any necessarily specific ones other than sort of like the big box or the SSI Gold Box games like Pool of Radiance and that whole series. That was something I was very passionate about at the time. Getting the original Planescape Torment, a lot of those kind of games. Warcraft 2, Daggerfall, all the Elder Scrolls games. But so I do have all those again. Also, too, all the Sierra games as well. That reminds me. So at Sierra, we had a policy where you could return a game no matter where you bought it for any reason whatsoever within 30 days, which is crazy. Nobody does that, but Sierra did. And so while working there, we had stacks of them all over the place at my desk, and there was a bunch of weird titles that were released at the time, like Battle Bugs, which nobody bought, and I had copies of, and later on, I ended up wanting to get a copy of that game, and it was really hard to do, because again, it was hard to find a complete copy on eBay or whatever. So, so that's definitely a spot where I wish I would have took and kept more of that stuff, especially the weirder kind of games that, again, were obscure.
Yeah.
All right. So I came up with a different question, but I thought of this one instead because of a more recent current event. Thinking about stuff going on back east with the hurricane. Have you ever had any difficulty talking to insurance people or something like that about getting your collection insured in case of, we don't get hurricanes in the Pacific Northwest necessarily, but floods, mudslides, earthquakes, other natural disasters that we get around here?
I mean, you can get homeowners insurance and renters insurance. So, with a house, I have homeowners insurance, but I'd have to look at the policy. This would really be more of a question for my wife, but it covers. It's not like I itemize my collection, but it covers, like, I have a couple of really expensive guitars I've had for like 25 years, and also a music collection, a bunch of vinyl records as well. And so it just kind of it's a blanket policy for that, my understanding of that. The one thing I will say that's kind of nice for me is that if something was to happen to my collection, I had to prove what I own, I have a video.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so I can show them a game room tour. And also, I have the collection itemized on my phone using an app. So that is very helpful for that. Mm-hmm. But that's not an unusual question for an insurance agent.
Yeah.
Lots of people have collections, of all different types. And so if you had a question, you could just reach out to them. I'm sure they'd have an answer for you, for sure.
First off, hello. I hope you all are doing well for the rest of your con.
Thank you.
I know we are primarily talking about games here, but me personally, seeing the prices of everything, I don't really want to deal with that. So I'm more interested in getting consoles and doing like console mods like ODEs and flashcards. Mm-hmm. What has been your strategies of finding consoles either easily or for good prices, and what consoles besides the Xbox and PlayStation 3 and the like that, which is going out on its way right now, which ones do you think are the best to try and scope out before people kind of scoop everything up? Because I want to get Dreamcast, for example, but Dreamcast is kind of going off the market.
I mean, that's
it really depends. I mean, what system out there is easy to get? I would say.
I mean, and where, right? So I mean, Xboxes, you mentioned Xboxes, but the reason why, they're everywhere. I mean, you can sometimes even find them still at Goodwill, right? Or thrift stores or pawn shops. The nice thing about that kind of era is that they still look good on an HD television.
Yeah.
That's the key, is that, and that's why I like them, is because you don't have to use an upscaler, I will say that for me personally, again, having some really nice upscalers now, these third-party, Eon and some of these other companies have made these upscalers for older systems, has really helped kind of keep those systems alive. And then you mentioned also SD mods. Optical drive emulators are really nice for things like the Saturn and Dreamcast and stuff like that. Yeah. And so I think that has breathed new life into that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. I certainly like them. It's also really nice for YouTube, because the videos that we're putting out are 1080p or 4K, and having those consoles upscaled so they look good, when you upload them to YouTube helps greatly. it used to be back in the day where people would point their phone or a camera at the television to capture footage, and those days, thankfully, are long gone. But I do think that because of that has kept the interest of some of those systems higher than perhaps they would normally be. So I don't know if I have an answer for you, really, but
Yeah, I don't either, really. But,
yeah. I mean, there's plenty of really obscure systems out there. You can go nuts with the Apple Pippin. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Who has the mic?
I have it.
Oh.
I would like to ask you guys, what are your thoughts on, a lot of people be saying this, like, oh, what are games that you have and that you wish you didn't trade or you didn't open? I said this new trend because there's a lot of people now like buying games and they don't open them because they think they're gonna regret it, like it's gonna work, like it's gonna be a big price in the future. Would you ever buy a game, even regular price or expensive, for not to play at all?
Well, the thing is, ever since people kind of like known video games become valuable because this is how it works. If you buy a game, there's always a chance it's going to increase in price, which gives it value. So a lot of people are saving certain games, and if they sell them all, they'll have a big chunk of money to do something else in the future. Like a lot of guys are.
Or they'll get it graded for that very reason.
Get it graded. Right? Now that's another big thing, and that stuff will be worth money. It's kind of like an investment, pretty much. I don't buy games to keep them sealed. I never have. I never will. It's just that I love playing the games. But some people are, they love games too, but they'll buy it for that,
Well, they're speculating, right?
They're speculating what will happen in the future. And then what they'll do, they'll download the digital version if they want to play it, I don't like that practice myself.
Yeah, I don't do it either. As a matter of fact, I open pretty much every game I get, even if I'm not going to play it necessarily right away. And for two reasons. One, it just answers that question. It's like, it's open.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much is every single game I buy. The other thing too is that Reggie and I capture all the footage for our pickups videos.
Yeah.
So we play those games, and so by the time that we get together and we film those, he gives me a USB drive with all his footage.
Yeah.
And the way he does that is by playing the game. And that's how we've done it for years now.
Here's a funny thing. So have you guys heard of a company called Super Limited or Rare Super? I forgot what it's called, Super Limited Games or something like that. Not Limited Run, it's another one.
I know, there's so many, right? It's like
there's
Super
so many,
Rare,
but
Limited,
they release these games,
premium.
these weird games. There's this horror game called Raildelium or something like that.
Okay, now you're making stuff up.
It's weird, right? So I did a pickups video recently, and I played the game, and the game was totally unplayable. And people in the comments section were saying, yeah, Reggie, I don't think this game was meant to be open, just to keep sealed for value. And so I think I'm the only person that has gameplay footage of that game on YouTube, which is hilarious. But the game was terrible, and you could tell it was meant not to be played.
That's so funny.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so the answer to your question, no, we don't. I mean, the only sealed games I have in my collection are by accident, to be honest, is that I don't have many at all, and I'm fine with that, so. We get the roaming,
I saw Batman and Robin yesterday and I was tempted, but only because I want the Batman Beyond game, so I didn't get it.
Where'd you see it at?
I don't remember. It was yesterday. I was all over the place,
Okay.
but it was tempting. But my question is, what about like finding games outside of like game stores and stuff in the Seattle area? I know sometimes I've never found anything like Goodwill or anything like that or garage sales, but.
yeah, it's interesting since, the pandemic is kind of over, and I've noticed that my local Goodwills, thank you, have started to get more games. And I'm not entirely sure why, but I've started to see them show up a little bit. I will say, though, my passion for doing that is much less than it used to be. You know what I mean? It definitely, I used to, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would get up on a Saturday morning, fired up to go do some garage sale hunting, some cash in my hand, and, try to get lucky. And people do, absolutely, because there's a Facebook group called the Greater Seattle Retro Gamers Group, and there are some people every Saturday get up and they just canvas huge sections of Seattle, and they find stuff. It's pretty impressive. That sounds like a lot of work to me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sleep in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and to be honest, it's like, again, getting back to it, like if it ends up at a booth here, they did all the work, you know what I mean? Or we'll do a trade or whatever. I'm okay with that because I'm not really looking for anything specific or trying to just get a ton of stuff. Usually those people are the ones who have a store or sell online or, you know, bring stuff to expos. And so to answer your question, it's out there, you know. It's funny, I went into a pawn shop near my house, it's like 6 months ago, and they had a bunch of WonderSwan stuff. I was like, what?
Wow.
That was weird, but it was there. I was like, huh, interesting, you know what I mean? So it can happen.
Yeah.
You mentioned an app. What app do you use to keep track of your?
Yeah, so there's primarily two of them, I think. I use one, and he uses the other one. So I use an app called CLZ Games, and it's a paid app. It's like $2 a month or something like that. It's pretty cheap. They also do comics and music and all that sort of stuff. I use it primarily because, and I've been using it for years, it has a ton of import things and weird stuff, PC games some of the more unusual things that I have. But he uses...
I use the Game Eye. It's free.
Yeah.
And that's what attracted me immediately. And it does different regions. It takes you to YouTube videos, gives you screenshots of the games, all kinds of stuff. So systems you can add in there, strategy guides, you know, even toys, you know, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, that's the one I use, and yeah, looking at it right now. It's called Game Eye.
Mm-hmm. Game Eye.
Sorry,
yeah.
Lies.
Yeah, so both of those seem to be the most popular. Also, I probably should mention that price charting also, I believe, has an app now,
Yeah, they do.
which is interesting because everybody goes to price charting to get values, including the CLZ Games app that I use. So they all kind of get their value from that website, and they now have their own app. So we should probably mention that.
So here's a three-part question. So for each of you, what's your like holy grail game of your game room, and how did you acquire it? And did you pay up for it, or did you get a great deal on it?
It's tough. For me, it's more of a system as a grail that I got. You know, most of the games I got when they first came out, so I just had them over the years. That's tough.
Reggie's PlayStation 1 collection is very impressive. You haven't done a video on it yet?
No.
But it's wow. I don't know anybody else who has quite that collection.
I mean, I could give you some holy grails I have in that collection, like Misadventures of Tron Bond. What else?
But you probably got cheap.
Yeah, got it like when it first came out. Well, matter of fact, I got the game for like less than what it was going for when it first came out, because it was like GameStop had some kind of sale going on, and I just randomly bought it because it was related to the Mega Man Legends games. But yeah.
You have just pretty much every single role-playing game on the PlayStation.
Yeah, I have all the heavy hitters. You know, there's more stuff. So now I'm looking for commons. Like I got Batman and Robin, which is kind of still a common, but you know, it's just got a little more expensive. But I couldn't think of like any that are really, I would think of holy grails that now or whatever.
I think for me, again, kind of systems, is that I do have a Panasonic Q in the box, which is pretty cool. That was actually given to me a long time ago by a viewer of my channel. It was shocking at the time. But it's the most beautiful console I think ever made.
Right.
And so I love owning that. It's like a piece of art. And then also too, I mean, you know, I guess I'd have to mention the US version of the N64 DD disk drive. So I think there's only one in the world, and I have it. That was a prototype ready to go from Nintendo in Redmond, Washington, and you know, it's pretty wild. And so that used to be in their break room, and they were going to throw it out, and thankfully an employee grabbed it.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty unusual for sure. Yeah.
So we have time for one last question. Who would you like?
Okay.
Anyone over here?
Hello.
Hello.
Do you guys have any video game pickups you can share with us right now?
And he probably does. So
let's see. I'll make sure.
The one I was excited to pick up today. So I mentioned our pickups videos with Reggie. We don't plan those. So when he shows up, we purposely don't look, you know, and because that's part of the fun, right?
Right.
It is really fun for us. And so he showed this Star Renegade game that this is a while ago. And and because it's funny because when we do those videos, he's describing the game, but I haven't seen the footage yet. And then I go and I assemble that video, and then I'm watching all this stuff going, man, this looks awesome, you know?
Yeah.
And so that happens a lot. And so that was one of those games. And so, excuse me, they had it out here, so I picked it up. I was like, oh yeah, Reggie approved.
The last purchase I made is at my booth. I got Dead Space 2 Collector's Edition. Someone had it for PS3, so I picked that up. It has that cool cover with Isaac like shooting away from the alien in outer space. Looks great. So that's the last thing I got. But
yeah, but we both picked up a bunch of stuff. So
Yeah,
we were
a lot.
actually talking about that before we started because I don't know everything he picked up either. So we're
Pickups video coming soon.
yeah, we have enough stuff now where we'll do one probably next month, I would think. Yeah, it'll be fun. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. That time flew.
Yeah,
so
it did.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and here are a few more videos for you to check out.